So no matter what kind of Sketchup version you have, most likely your window looks something like this. And first of all, I'm going to show you just a quick things to move around. But before we do that, I just want you, in order to be on the same page in terms of what we have on our screens, to go ahead and right click on this bar and turn on the large tool set, because there is a good amount of tools that we will use right here. Let me just show you some quick things on how you can navigate in SketchUp. First of all, I would highly recommend you to use a 3-click mouse. And basically that means you can also click on the scroll wheel. Reason being is that first off, you can orbit around while holding the scroll wheel down and moving your mouse around to something like this. You can zoom in while scrolling upwards and zoom out while scrolling downwards. And then if you also want to pan around, you can use the shift key and also click on the scroll wheel and move around in order to move parallel to how you already set your angle of the camera in that sense. So this is basically how you can navigate around quite easily. You can also choose these tools here at the top bar, as you can see, something like this. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and import floor plans. And if you want to go ahead and follow along to this video, you can click below and download the floor plans for yourself as well. So I'm going to go here at File and I'm going to click Import. I'm going to click on the elevation firstly. So I'm going to import the elevation right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and import the floor plan right here. So as soon as we have the floor plan and the elevation, the first things that we do want to do is that we want to make sure that these are imported in the correct scale. So how can we make sure that this elevation is imported in the correct scale? Well, in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line which is 6 meters or 600 centimeters long. And by the way, if you use other units like inches, feet, whatever, you can still follow along because the whole process is the same. It's just that I live in Europe and this is what we use. So bear with me. Anyway, so right here, I'm going to use the line tool first. So if you click right here on the line tool, we're going to click on the beginning of the line. And then we're going to make sure that this is straight. So if you hold the shift key, this will not be this will keep the 90-degree angle. And I'm going to type in 600 for centimeters. Now we want to make sure that this dimension is the same size as the line here. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead, select our reference image. I'm going to go ahead and explode it first. Then I will actually double click on it and make a group out of it as well. Weird process, but it just goes like this when you import a drawing. And then I will go inside the group. I will click once on the beginning point of the dimension line, another time in the end, and let's type in 600. And this will basically tell SketchUp to make this distance, instead of what it is right now, into 600, which you can see in the bottom right corner of our screen. I'm going to click enter. And then it will say, do you want to resize the active group? We'll click yes. And in just a second, and now if we actually go right here to the line, which is supposed to be 600 centimeters, we can click at the starting point and then another time the end point. As you can see in the bottom right, you can see that it is 600 centimeters. Let's do the same thing here for the floor plan. We are going to go ahead and explode this. Let's make this a group once again. Let's double click to go inside the group. We can use the line tool once again to get started from this point. And then we are going to type in 600. We're going to click enter. Let's select this. So the actual reference plan, we're going to click once again in the beginning and then another time right here. I'm going to tell SketchUp to make this distance 600 centimeters instead. It is going to say, do you want to resize the active group or component? We're going to click yes. Let's delete this line. Let's delete this line. And now let's measure this with the line tool once again. It starts from here, 600. And it begins here, and that is totally fine. So let's get started with the floor plan. First things first, we can either use the line tool in order to draw the slab. So for example, we can go for something like this for the slab. We can draw this all one by one. So over in this corner, let's go over here and let's close it off. And this would be the slab for the flooring. Now, what I will recommend in order to draw a lot more precise in instances where the floor that we drew on or the surface that we drew on covers the floor plan, we're going to go to view. We can go to face style. I'm going to turn it to X-ray, and now we can see through this. Then next up, we're going to go ahead and use the rectangle tool. I'm going to start from here, and then we are going to close off right here as well. Now that we have drawn the actual floor, what we will do is that I'm going to go ahead and use the push-pull tool to turn this 2D rectangle into a 3D slab. So I'm going to go ahead and use the push-pull tool, which is the one right here, or I can press the P key as a shortcut. We can push this downwards. I'm going to type in 30 centimeters and enter, and now we have the slab of the floor here. Then I can triple click on this and make this a group, and this will be the slab for us. Now, one more thing that I want to do before we actually move forward is that if I go to tags here, I'm going to go ahead and add tags or layers to keep things a lot more organized. For example, this can be the slab layer. We're going to go ahead and add in the wall layer. We're going to add in the windows layer. We're going to add in the furniture layer. And I think this should be okay for now. So then what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and use the rectangle tool, start from this point over to this other one right here, and then start from this point over to this other one right here. Let's go ahead, push pull this upwards for about 300 centimeters. We're going to click enter. So this is one. And now one quick tip is that if you've used 300 centimeters and you want to use the same distance for push pull as you did in the previous surface, instead of tapping it again, we can just double click on the surface right here. And as you can see, both of these have the same height now. And I know that this is 300 centimeters, by the way, based on the elevation that I drew here, but I'm going to show you how we can use the elevation even later on. Now, something else that we have in this instance is the actual windows and also the ceiling, which is going to be a lot easier drawn if I basically go ahead and use the M key for the move tool. But then if you see, if I align the move tool on the sides, you can see that I can rotate this vertically. So it can be something like this. And we do want it vertically because I'm going to go ahead and place this over here as an elevation. And then I will move this backwards as a way to reference for the ceiling. So for the ceiling, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to draw and trace over the elevation that we have right here, our interior elevations, with the line tool, just like this. And by the way, if you want to keep it aligned to a certain axis, you can also use the arrow key. So for example, in this instance, if I wanted to go downwards, I can just press the upwards arrow key. So if I wanted to stick to the vertical axis, I can just press the up arrow key. And now no matter where I move the actual pen, it will go up and down. I'm going to click once again over here. Now we do want it to go to the horizontal axis. I can just press the right arrow key. We can go upwards once again, horizontal axis over here. Let's go upwards once again, over here, upwards once again, over here, upwards once again, and then let's close this off right here. Now this, we can just push pull this over here, and then we can push pull this all the way to the other side, and then we can close this off with the exterior walls just like this. And this is exactly how we can draw the ceiling for us. Now let's move the elevation out of the way first. Let me just close the ceiling off from this side as well. Let's measure the distance from here to over here, which is about 20 centimeters. I'm going to go inside. Let's use the rectangular tool. Let's push pull this over here for 21 centimeters. And because I just want this to be offset and the same distance from the walls throughout the whole ceiling, then I can basically draw the rectangular tool inside this surface to have to basically divide this in two pieces. I can push pull this to the other side, just like this. Now let's go for 21 centimeters on this side as well. Let's go upwards. Let's close this off or something like this. Let's clean this part off as well. And then this could be about it for our ceiling. So now what I will do is that maybe I will just extend this past our floor plan, just so we can close the actual space off easier without being visible on the camera. And I'm going to show you that in just a second once we get to the phase where we actually do the scene setup. So let's close this off over here. And then let's extend the flooring to right here. I'm going to deselect the whole ceiling. And then I'm going to group the walls. I'm going to make a group. Let's put these all into their layer. So in tag, I will put this at wall. Then I will select the slab. I will keep it at slab. And then I will triple click on the ceiling. I will make this as group. Let's go over here. Let's do ceiling. Basically, this is how we can draw the raw structures. So pretty basic. You can use rectangular. So what we use so far is the rectangular tool, the pen tool, the push-pull tool, and this is pretty much it. We have the ceiling, we have the walls, and we have the slab underneath. Now it's time to get introduced to the Sketchup warehouse. So this is one of the biggest selling points when it comes to Sketchup for me, because the 3D warehouse is the biggest library of release, from my experience, of 3D models that you can access. So for example, we can go ahead and type in L sofa, which means like an L-shaped sofa. And you can see that there is a bunch of these that we can choose from. So for example, let's just choose this one. I'm gonna click yes. In just a second, instead of having to download this in some third-party website and having to 3D model it ourselves, we can drag and drop a sofa right into our model, which I think is very, very cool. And obviously we can do that with every single element right here, which we'll do in a second. But before I basically import all the furniture, I want to go ahead and find a triple window model, which we need for the window here. So I'm going to type in triple window. Let's click enter. And then as you can see, it immediately found exactly what I need here. So I'm going to download this directly on SketchUp. I am going to place this. Now, as you can see, I can rotate it with the move tool. So I can just click once and then click another time on where I want it rotated to. Let's keep it right here. Let's increase this in size. And then I can increase it in size horizontally as well. So now we have the windows too. What I can do now is that I can select the ceiling, and in order for us to work much easier with every single element that we have imported, I can go down here and turn off the ceiling completely. Now, from the top view, once again, I can go to view, façade, let's go to X-ray, and we can see where we can place elements closely with at least some proximity. So what I can do here is I'm gonna go ahead and type in TV stand first as one of the pieces of furniture that we will import. And for example, we can easily just click once on this one. We can download it and immediately import it onto our model right here. And obviously, if we want to play around with the scale of it, I'm going to show you how in just a second. I can move this just a little bit backwards. You can either press the S key for scale, and then you can scale it uniformly by choosing one of the corners, or if you want to scale it non-uniformly, you can basically choose any other point except of the corners. In this instance, I basically just want to increase it in size equally on all axes. And I will move it a bit backwards. What I can do as well is that I will scale it. I will make it just a little bit thinner on these sides as well. And then this is how we are going to import everything. And this is how we put the TV stand to place. Let's go ahead and find a carpet real quick. That should be easy enough for us. So let's go carpet. I'm just gonna import this one. Let's increase it in size. Now let's go ahead and find a coffee table, and we can choose something like this. So I like this combination, the composition, also the incorporation of the accessories, so we can leave it as this. If you want it a bit more irregular and randomized, we can even rotate it on the sides a bit. Then we can also go ahead and import an ottoman. So let's just choose this one, very simple one. No need to overcomplicate it with heavier models. And we will just put it right there. Let's go ahead now search for an indoor plant. As you can see, this is like a game. It's just fun. You can drag and drop, try things around. Basically Sims, but for adults, because only kids play Sims. Real adults play SketchUp. Let's go over here. Let's just select this indoor plant. I'm going to put it right here in this corner, and then let's just place it on the floor. And then we can also scale it upwards in size. Let's move this Let's move this over here. And then let's go over here, find a floor lamp. So this is how we are furnishing step by step every single element that we need on our view here. So for example, we can choose this floor lamp as well. Let's place it over here and maybe add a bit more rotation to it to make it look a bit more naturally placed. Then as one of the final imports from what I can see is the painting. So I'm going to type in painting square because that's the aspect ratio that I want of the painting. Let's choose this one. I think this one looks quite good. And in just a second, I'm going to show you how we can also apply materials to our sketch window and how we can set everything up in Sketchup. So let's import this. Let's delete this completely and just choose one of this, which is this one. Okay, cool. So now we can do, let's go to view. Let's turn off the X-ray view. And now let's turn on the ceiling. And let's set up our scene view. Let's take away these reference plans for now because we do not want them to interrupt the scene that we'll set up in SketchUp. And what we will do in order, for example, to have a view from over here, let's say we have a section that cuts right here and we want to view the backdrop and the furniture, we can go ahead at tools. We can use the section plane. We can start the section plane from this side. We can name it, for example, section A. We can click OK, and then we can select the section and then move it towards this side, and it can basically cut right there. So this is one way that we can set up our view in SketchUp. As you can see, everything came along quite nicely so far. What we can do now as well, it scenes right here in the default tray. By the way, if you do not have the default tray already opened, you can basically go at window, default tray, and then show tray right there. I'm going to click plus for adding one extra scene. And now what this does is that even if I move around the model, I need to fix things. If I want to go back to the same exact view that I had set up before, I can just click here on scene 1 and it goes right back. So one of the other very cool parts about SketchUp is that it has an already built-in material library right here. And I'm going to show you how we can use that in just a second. So for example, let's start with the flooring. I'm going to go over here at the wood category and we can choose this wood floor. I'm going to go ahead and go inside our slab and I have applied the wood flooring in just one click. There are ways that we can optimize and tweak this. For example, we can go at edit and make this smaller. As you can see, it's 152 centimeters. We can go for something like 90 centimeters. And then we can also tweak it manually by going inside the group, selecting the texture, right-clicking. We can go to texture and click on position. And basically we can also rotate it with this green icon completely for something like this, and also tweak the size of it if you want to, but I will leave it like that for now. Let's go back to our view once again. Now, the other part that we can also apply material to is the walls. I'm going to go to select and then let's go to synthetic surfaces. I'm going to choose this quartz light gray and let's just apply it to the wall here. Let's make it a bit more on the gray side. And then let's do the same thing for the ceiling here as well. That is how we apply a material onto the ceiling too. Let's turn off the saturation all the way down because I do want it to look a bit more grayish rather than have a purple side to it. And then we can also make the windows black. In order to select materials, by the way, you can just hit the B button for the paint bucket tool, hold the Alt key for the eyedropper tool, and then we can basically tweak the color here at the edit. Okay, so one more thing that I would like to add here is that if I go inside the ceiling group, I want to go ahead and draw a rectangle for something like this. And now let's tweak this line. I'm going to click the move tool to tweak the line over here, and then I will push this upwards for about just a few centimeters. I want to leave some space for some curtains here. This may be a window, this may not be a window, but I just want to add some curtains and show you exactly how we can do it, because that side looks a bit empty and too much white space in that instance. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this curtain model. I'm going to load it directly to SketchUp. Let's keep it right here. Let's use the scale tool and increase it all the way up to the ceiling. Let's move this just a little bit forward. Let's select the curtain. Let's move it backwards a bit and then over here to the side exactly where the curtains start. And then let's go back to our scene, and it gives the scene a bit more character. I'm gonna scale it over on this side just a bit more. Let's go back to scene. Let's select this one as well. I'm gonna make this a dark blue. From color wheel, we're going to go back to HLS, and then let's make this a bit darker. So this is a crash course on how you can create your first interior project in 3D in SketchUp. If you want a more detailed course with all the basics, even for exterior projects, go ahead and watch this SketchUp video right here.